So if you look here, this is basically my lovely website. It looks glorious. And then I've obviously chosen the free tiers. Come on, free resources. Let's hope this works. Obviously, init didn't work straight away, which is fantastic. Codify it, peer reviews, go through a pipeline which will automatically build your infrastructure and then deploy your application. So welcome back to the channel. I'm Sunny and this is Someone Else's Cloud. So little update, I've been furnishing this room still. I've got some floating shelves there. I've got some Elgato acoustic panels here. I've got some wall art, some neon lights, an armchair. And this is probably, I guess, near the final stages of how I want this room. But my hope now is to have a studio that's set up and I'm ready to now just shoot content. So one thing that I've been looking at is unnecessary subscription costs and things that I'm spending money on. And one of them was my website. So if you've seen my previous website, it was actually hosted on Squarespace, and I chose Squarespace because Squarespace can also host audio for podcasting, and it also gave me freedom to basically host my website, post my YouTube videos and my audio all in one. But that was costing me about $40 a month. So what I've done now is I've actually removed most of my audio, but now I'm hosting it all on Spotify. So I'm working on a little project on the side that will be more audio format rather than just putting YouTube videos on podcasting platforms. So stay tuned for that. And I started looking at website hosting because as everyone knows, there's a lot of cheaper and free things that you can actually host your website on, such as Azure Storage Accounts. S3 buckets have had it for some time. So just free static HTML hosting. Azure now has a static web app, which is what I'm going to be working on in this video. And you've also got things like GitHub pages, and it's all free. So I thought I would create a video to walk through, I guess, how you would set up an entire pipeline from beginning to end, which will basically build a website from scratch pretty much, and then basically use GitHub Actions to deploy it with Terraform Cloud and then into Azure. And then basically have this sort of continuous deployment pipeline where you can basically make changes into GitHub and it'll flow through GitHub Actions, Terraform, and then basically Azure and deploy your website. So that's what I wanted to show. I think it's a really good sort of project where, if you want to learn cloud pipelines or CI/CD type pipelines, infrastructure as code, Azure, anything. I think personally, if you're in the tech space or even if you're not, having a personal website is probably a good idea because it costs you nothing these days besides the domain registration probably. And it gives you an opportunity to play with, I guess, all the technologies, and they're all free. So I'm still trying to improve my processes because they're all over the shop still. But what I'm going to do is I've blogged this episode step by step so you can follow it from the website or watch this video because it's basically a double dipping, right? So having a blog is SEO, so I might put it on other platforms like Medium, put it on LinkedIn, whatever else. And then I've also got the outlet for the YouTube video. So let's just walk through this and get started. So this is basically what we're trying to do. We're basically going to develop code locally. So I don't know how other people really do this. I guess you can put source code in GitHub, but I chose not to do that. So what I'm going to do is use something called Jekyll, which is a static website generator. And then I am going to develop locally. And then I basically generate a build, which will output all the HTML files. And then that is what I'm going to put in GitHub. So this flow shows you basically if you push code into GitHub, which has a GitHub Actions workflow, it will basically build the infrastructure into Azure. And then obviously it already exists. It will make no changes. And then it'll publish the website into Azure. And that's what we're going to demo today. So we'll just get straight into it. So I've got some prerequisites here. I've got an overview here as well, but the prerequisites, obviously you need Terraform locally, which I have already. You'll also need a Terraform cloud account. So the links are here. Basically, you just go sign up. You can get free access. Obviously, anything that's free is going to be restricted. So the Terraform runs will be restricted from how many runs you can run at once. But, if it's just a personal project, no issues there. Sign up to Azure as well. So you can get $200, I think, free credit as well for a year. But I'm going to host it via the Azure static websites, which will basically be free. And then GitHub is also free, and Jekyll is also free. So everything's just all available to you now. So basically what you'll need to do is go through these and set yourself up. So obviously here as well, and you download it. So I've already gone through all this, and what we'll do is we'll go straight into it. Okay, so first up, let's set up the Terraform Cloud Workspace. So I don't know if I copied the name here. So just want to make sure it's the same name. So we're just going to create a new workspace. And we're going to go with API driven. And I've got the names already here. But I'm just going to keep it the same name as my demo repo. And that's basically it. So we're just going to create a new Terraform workspace, and it's pretty straightforward. So this workspace has been created. What we're going to do later is we're going to set up a TFE API token and a bunch of workspace variables, which will allow our workspace to authenticate to Azure and I believe GitHub. So let's create that. So we've created that. It's very straightforward. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a service principal. So I'm going to use the portal for a lot of these, but I've got scripts elsewhere from my episode 4. That's a PowerShell script. They'll actually create it for you and assign the permissions. But anyways, I'm just going to do it through the portal. So let's go to Azure AD. And we're just going to go app registrations. And we're going to create a new registration. So I just call it Terraform SP. I don't need unique numbers. And basically we keep everything default. So you also don't need a redirect URL or anything. What we do need to do is we need to assign permissions. Just want to make sure I'm following the same order. Yep, so we're going to assign permissions. Let's go. So we're going to assign contributor at the subscription level. So obviously for demo purposes, this will just make your life easier. But in the real world, obviously you want to scope it down to the permissions it actually needs and scope it to, I guess, where it needs it as well. But in this instance, we're just going to add a role assignment. We're going to go privilege, contributor, and then next. It's so weird using the portal. I'm not really used to using the portal these days. And okay, so that role assignment's done. So now if we look at role assignments, I've got a whole bunch of other ones there, but we just assign this one contributor to the subscription. So let's see what is next. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create Terraform workspace variables. This is so the Terraform Azure RM provider can authenticate to Azure. So let's do that now. Got to remember all these values. So it's client ID. So we just go to variables. So don't forget to mark these as secret too. So client ID is generally the application ID. I don't know why they call it different things. They should just be consistent with what they call it. But we'll mark it as sensitive. And we're going to add it. And then it's done. Let's go to subscription. So we're going to add another one. We'll just mark them all as sensitive. This will be subscription ID. And we'll just grab the tenant ID, not here though. Mark it as sensitive. And this will be tenant ID. Obviously, it doesn't matter what order it is. They just need to exist. And then what we're going to do is generate a secret on our service principal. Probably should have done that first. But anyways, let's create a new one. We'll just call this Terraform Cloud. Just set a short-term period. And we'll just copy the secret. Obviously, it will disappear as well. Can't remember what the value is. So it's client_secret. Okay, so that's done. So we're going to create a GitHub token here. Now, I don't know if I've finalized these permissions because I kind of just, guessed them, because there's an option here for fine-grained tokens, which is, the way we're going to go. I've got a whole bunch here. I can probably delete. Actually, let me copy that name while I'm here. So just going to delete this. Yep. Hey, Charlie. What are you doing? Okay, so we're going to create this token. So we're going to just borrow that name that I just took. You can add a description. So Azure Static Web App. And what we're going to do is we're going to target it. Actually, I haven't created a repo yet. So, yeah, I've got to switch my documentation. Let me create my repo first. So, this repo is just going to be for this demo. Website automation. I'm just going to skip all these. And we just... Looks like Charlie wants to join in. Hey. Okay, so I don't know if I missed something. You can blame Charlie for that one. Okay, so now I've got the repo. Okay, so what we need to do is create a personal access token in GitHub. We're using Terraform to actually pull that web app token and store it as a GitHub Actions secret. So when your pipeline runs, it can basically deploy from GitHub Actions. Originally, I didn't do this. Originally, I was manually copying and pasting like I'm doing now, but I thought it'd be easier that your code will basically deploy your website, but then once it's deployed, it will pull out the token and then put it in a GitHub Action secret. So I guess it's less manual work, and it also will be created and destroyed with your web app infrastructure. So we're going to go fine-grained tokens. I don't have that name anymore, and it doesn't save it. Do I have it written somewhere? Yes. Okay, so I'm just going to call it that. I've got a description here. And then what we're going to do, now that we have a repo, hopefully it shows up. Whoops. So we're going to target it to, or scope it to that new repo I just created. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add permissions for actions to read actions. I hope this works. I can't really remember if I figured it out. We basically leave everything as default, so metadata will be read only. And then we go to secrets and we go read write. Now, there's a workflows here. Why would there be workflows and actions? Interesting. Let's set... okay, that's read write. We're going to leave it as it is. So let's generate this token. So this is a token, so you got to copy it because it'll disappear once you click away. Go back to our Terraform workspace. I think we call this GitHub_token. Now this is actually case sensitive, so make sure that it's consistent across code and the workspace variable and everywhere else. Terraform gets a bit temperamental at times on some things. So mark this as sensitive. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call it GitHub_token. I think that's right. Yep. Okay, so that's now done. So I've already created the repo. So I should probably, the reason why I put this here, because we're creating workspace variables above. So I just thought I can just add it here. But now I'm going through it. Obviously sequencing needs to be updated. So I'll update that. Now I've already created the repo. Okay, so what we need to do now is create a TFE token in GitHub so GitHub Actions can talk to Terraform Cloud. So let's go and do that now. So now if we go to our Terraform Cloud, let's go to our profile, go to user settings, and then we just go tokens. So I've got a whole bunch here. Could probably delete a whole bunch. Let's clean it up while I'm here. Ooh, let's leave that one. Okay, so we create a new one. We'll just call it site automation. So set your expiration to whatever you want. So we've got a new token. So what we need to do is store this in GitHub Actions. But what did I call this? Yep, so it needs to be called this. So let's go to our, okay, so I can't click away. So just going to open up a new tab. Which one? So this is the one I'm playing with. We basically go to settings, secrets, and variables, and then actions. I'm going to create a new secret. I'm going to call it the TF_API token. So again, case sensitive, potentially, but just to be safe, I would do that. Paste your secret, add it, and that's basically done. So once that's done, we move along to setting up the repo. So I've got a repo here, which has a whole bunch of code. So what we're going to do is we're going to clone this repo. So this repo contains the GitHub workflow. If you have a look, I've named it to .text, and you've got to rename it to .yaml, because obviously if it's .yaml, GitHub picks it up as a workflow and just starts trying to automate everything. And if you look here, this is a new feature actually, this little code explorer, it's pretty cool. I've got my Terraform files, so I'll walk through it because I'm going to clone it. And then I've got some Jekyll HTML files, which are very basic. So let's go to VS Code. So where's my VS Code? Okay, so I've got my little demo folder here. I should have nothing in here. So let's clone that repo. Okay, so we've got the repo here. But what we're going to do is the demo repo that I just created, this one, I'm going to clone this. So this is actually going to be the one I'm going to be working from. So this would be your repo when you're working with this. So let's clone it. So now I've got two repos here. So if you have a look here, so I've got .github and then workflows, and this is basically a GitHub workflow here. So let's copy this. Let's copy everything actually, except the README, to my repo, and let's work out of this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename this one to .yaml, and you'll see it should change color. So there we go. So GitHub Actions is very similar to Azure DevOps. Really anything that's pipeline driven, it's quite similar. If you look at this code, it actually looks very similar to an Azure DevOps pipeline. So being, I guess, in YAML makes it easier. I've got it here. So any changes to master. Now, I don't know if my main branch is master. Let's confirm that just in case. Oh, actually, you could see master before anyway, but yeah, default branch is master. I think I changed that from main. I just got used to working with master. Let's go back to this. So any changes to master will invoke this pipeline pretty much, which is what we want. So we're going to run with Ubuntu, and there's permission set here. So these are the basic actions to perform a Git checkout. And then I've got the Terraform plugin. So I got this from the Terraform website, so it's pretty straightforward. it's going to leverage off the TF underscore API token that I created in the workspace. And then we're going to basically run a format, an init, then a validate, then a plan. And then there's a whole bunch of other random things where if the plan fails, an apply won't happen. And basically the next step would be to publish the website. So I've got a needs Terraform. So this means if this Terraform stage, I actually don't know the terminology, but I'm going to call it a stage. Correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, if this stage fails, then this stage won't run. And we're going to do the same. There's basically another checkout here. And then there's actually a static web apps deploy action, which will leverage off the secret that I created there. So that secret will actually get created after the web app gets created. So I'll show you that as well. And then the application is going to be in the source folder. So basically any changes to source or all your HTML files need to go into source. So anyways, that's quickly what the pipeline looks like. And then if we just go over here, so this is basically generic files from Jekyll. So I've pre-generated this, and then I'll show you, I guess, how I change it with a different template, which is pretty straightforward as well. And then I've got a copy here, which we don't need. Let's delete that. And so if you look at main here, actually, let's start with providers first. So we're going to use the Azure RM provider, which is basically how Terraform interfaces with Azure. So you're always going to need this if you're trying to do any work with Azure. I've got the GitHub provider because I'm basically creating the GitHub secret. And then I've got a random generator. So that way it will name your resources and you don't have to worry about it. Now, this is basically my organization. I thought I didn't update it. So I think I still need to push some code up, but I try to make these all generic. So basically what you're going to need to do is update your organization here and then update your Terraform workspace. So I can't remember what I called it. Let's have a look. I think I called it with underscores to align with my name. Why have I got two here? I thought I deleted them. Anyways, let's see where I created these variables. Yeah, they're all here. Okay, so let's update the code. So this is actually going to be my workspace name. So it's underscores. This is how basically the Azure RM provider will authenticate. So they basically use those variables that we created in the GitHub one. So if you look here, you'll use all these to authenticate. And that's pretty a stock standard way to authenticate to Azure because you don't want passwords being stored in configuration files. Looks like I duplicate everything here. And if we go over to variables, so I've just declared all those variables, note uppercase, lowercase, it actually matters, and main. So this is quite simple code. So we've got a location because I'm just going to use it across all resources just to simplify it. Generating an RG name, which is basically off the random pet generator. So you can basically run this without modifying anything. And then the web app name, which is going to use the random pet name as well. And I think that repo, I thought I created it differently. Actually, this is going to be the repo because it's just for the demo. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. So we've got random pet and then name, and length is one. That means one word. So next is just the resource group, which will leverage off the values up the top. So this location and this name. And then the static web app will do the same. And then I've obviously chosen the free tiers. And then this is the GitHub action secret, which will basically grab the API key, which is generated from this resource, and then it's going to create a secret under that name. So let's just check this. So I tried to align my naming standards, but they didn't align. I got providers, so Workspace is lowercase, and then my repo's just got a dash. But originally I had it all the same name, but because my repo name is really the demo code, I don't want to touch it now. So anyways, let's check all this in. So I like to, I guess, use the interface just so I know what I'm adding. I'm not really, you can run the commands like I've documented here, which is all the git add. Where is it? So one step I'm really going to brush over is how to build a website with Jekyll. So it's pretty straightforward. I've got links to the quick start, which is really you install it. So I ran this on WSL on Ubuntu, which is what I'm running in VS Code right now. So basically you just, gem is like npm, so it's basically just the package manager, and then Jekyll itself. And then basically this is how you create a new website, which will just generate some static code. Then you go into that folder, and then you can basically build the code there. And what I'm going to do is I'll run this against another template and then build it into my source folder. But what we're going to do first is initially deploy the website. So this is where we get to deploy the code area. So your repo should look something like this. So I've got the commands here. Like I said, I run these sometimes when I'm kind of lazy, but I like to use the UI here because I like to see what I'm actually uploading, because you've always got random files lying around, and sometimes you want to accidentally upload some things. So we're just going to say initial deployment. So we're just going to commit it, and then we're going to sync it. So this should go straight into GitHub here. Ooh. So you can see here, files are here now. Now if we go to the actions button, you can see here, it's interesting, I don't know why it's appearing twice, but you can see here those stages in the pipeline already here. So let's hope this works. Obviously init didn't work straight away, which is fantastic. Failed to read organization, which is generally the Terraform token. Let's just go back because there was 2 commits. Okay, they both failed. Excellent. All right. So this would generally imply that either the organization's wrong or the API token or something is wrong. So let's go troubleshoot this. Demos never work. So what did I just copy again? Organization, yep. So let's just make sure. Okay, so no typos in the organization, so it has to be the API token. I don't know why I created 2. Just let me delete one of these. Okay, that's deleted. Let's go back to the token. I don't know why that didn't work, but let's delete it. So you can see that, and it says token is not being used. So obviously it didn't work. Let's create this again. Go back to GitHub Actions or Settings. Let's edit this one. Just going to update it. Let's attempt to rerun this and see what happens. Actually, let's just go all jobs. What did I miss out on? So you can see it's downloading the providers. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why that didn't work the first time. I probably messed something up. But you can see here it's running now. So I just clicked on the run. So this is, I don't really like this interface, to be honest. If anyone uses Terraform Cloud, let me know your thoughts. I kind of like this old school one. This one's too pretty. Now, obviously, running anything free, like I said, it's restricted. Performance is probably not the best. So we're just going to see here. Okay, so this is the old school view that I still like, because this is a new view. You can see it's going to create a resource group, static website, a secret, and it's going to use the random pet generator. So you can see here. So now it's going to go through, do another plan, then apply. So I'll just probably fast forward this part. Now, there is something that I've documented as well, that it seems like because this is going to create a new GitHub secret and it's going to be the API token, that the next part of the stage when it does the publish, that actually fails. So it's like the secret doesn't update. So if anyone knows any ways around that, let me know. But it seems like the secret is refreshed at the start of when it runs, which kind of makes sense. I think Azure DevOps kind of does that too, because it will basically, unless you're writing the environment variable, it won't know about any variables that are actually created along the way. But you can see here my apply just ran, and you should be here. So it's all green. That's what we like to see. If you look at this, there should be an apply here. You can see it applied. And it's gone and created everything. So that should be done. So now it's going to publish, and you see this is going to error because the secret was created at this point. So you can see here. Now, if we go have a look at the actual code itself, the secret should be there. And it's pretty sure it's going to fail. So you see here, it's gone and created this. But let's see, maybe it's going to work. Nope, see that? Deployment token was not provided. So I've documented this as well. So all you need to do, I believe, is just rerun this failed run, which is what I'm going to do. So rather than rerunning all the Terraform stuff again, I'll just run this failed run. And hopefully this will just run this part. And hopefully it works. If not, I'll just rerun the whole thing. Like I said, I wasn't sure on permissions, but as you can see, it created the secret with no problem. So right now, it's going to basically pull all your source files down, and then it's going to package them up and then deploy it via the token, which is a secret. Come on, free resources. Oh, there we go. And yeah, so that's done. So now, if we go to Azure, I should have shown you the Azure website first, which would have been the standard website that appears. So if we have a look, Flamingo is what we created. So if you see through the runs, you can actually open up, say, this, and it tells you it created Flamingo. So that's going to be the name of all these resources. And it's in your GitHub Actions plan as well. So what was I doing? Let's go to Flamingo and see the website. Flamingo website gets created, and you've got a URL. And when I click on this, it should be Jekyll. So you can see here. So that was pretty much it. So this whole pipeline just deployed that. Which, if we go back to the top, so what I'm up to step 10, which is near the end. If we have a look at this, so pretty much I just obviously didn't submit a pull request because this is a demo, but basically merged into master, made sure there were source files in the source folder. Workflow was created with that YAML file that is in my code. Then basically that Terraform code will go and create. We'll talk to Terraform via that Terraform API, deploy all the Azure resources, and then it will generate the secret back into GitHub Actions. I should probably put that in here somewhere. And then the next part is to consume that token and then publish the website into Azure. So I might update this diagram. But if we go back, we're on step 10. So this is pretty much just the code. So you can see here I've got the error. So you can just rerun. I got all jobs, but you can just run failed jobs. And then locate your URL. So that's pretty much it. But what I'm going to show you now is, I guess, updating the website. So if you look here, this is basically my lovely website. It looks glorious, lots of white. So let's go back to VS Code. Now, I can't remember all these commands, but in my code here, I think I've got a Jekyll theme. So there's this Jekyll theme that's basically called Jeckflix, which looks like a Netflix type theme. So what we're going to do is clone this repo. So let's clone it. And I can't remember all the commands, so let's just try and guess them. So we've got this Jekyll folder now. So if you see here, this Jekyll template. So you don't really need to modify anything. I'm not really going to talk about Jekyll. I might talk about it in a future video, and I'll tell you why in a sec. So I think I got to run sudo, can't remember. Is it bundle install. Yes. Okay, so they're already there anyway. All the dependencies are already there. Let's go back to the doco, this part here. So we need to run this command, but we're going to output it to a folder back. So it'll be dot, and then it'll be website automation. So we're going to basically generate HTML code, so static HTML code from this template, and then we're going to output it to this source folder. So if I run this, hopefully it just works. So it's generating, and you'll see, hopefully there'll be a whole bunch of files appearing in here. Yep, so this is all pre-baked from that template that I just downloaded. So what we're going to do is we're going to upload it. So let's call it Flix template. So we're going to commit it. We'll sync it. And if we look here, not this one, you'll see another run will appear here. Yep, there we go. So as you can see, all I did was publish more files into the source folder, and then I basically checked it in, and then you can see here. So it's going to go through, and theoretically there should be no changes to infrastructure. So this should just skip along. We'll just wait for this because, free resources are the fastest resources, as you can see. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward this part. It's going to go through and try and run and apply, and it'll say there's no changes. Yep, so no changes. Off we go. It's going to publish the website. Okay, so off she goes. Consuming all those free resources. Okay, so that's pretty much done, but let's let it finalize just to close it out. See, so that part is done, but we'll just let this finish up. Okay, so that's done. And now if we refresh this, there we go. And that's pretty much it. So we've now published a new website. Now, I have actually deployed a new website using Jekyll. So someoneelsescloud.com actually is hosted using Jekyll and GitHub Pages. So I'm actually using GitHub Pages because it's actually a lot more simplified. Okay, so that's pretty much the video. As you can see, it's going to be a blog as well, so you can follow it step by step, or you can watch the video, or you can do both. But I just wanted to show you, I guess, what sort of happens in the real world on how people manage GitHub. Obviously, having code owners and peer review, and having approvals, as well as refining your permissions and making them the least privileged down to the smallest scope on exactly what you need to do just to mitigate any blast radius, any sort of risks. But from this demo, I just wanted to show you, I guess, how in a real world scenario, you would actually build code, then you would basically generate it, and then write infrastructure as code, and then deploy your application. So pretty much codify it, peer reviews, go through a pipeline which will automatically build your infrastructure and then automatically deploy your application. That's really how people operate in today's world. But I might do another video because, like I said, my website is actually hosted in GitHub Pages, and it's also using Jekyll. So I basically found a template, then I just hacked it, But now it's a lot easier for me to manage, and it's free. So, it's just raw HTML. But I might do another video on that because I think anyone and everyone, if they have time or if it's of interest, they should probably build a website. It shows initiative, as well as you can take the opportunity to learn things. So I think it's just a good idea just to do something different and learn new things. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe button, comment below, hit that bell notification, tell your friends, tell your parents, and I'm signing out. See ya!